Well, good morning everyone. Great to be down on the Brisbane River again with my parliamentary and ministerial colleague Mark Bailey, the Minister for Transport, also the State Member for Lytton, Joan Pease, as well as Kel Dillon from Maritime Safety Queensland. We're all here today to thank those hard-working professionals who have toiled so hard over almost 6 weeks to bring the Brisbane River back to life and to make it safe again for marine craft in our city and in the southeast of Queensland. I was here about a little over 4 weeks ago, and the river was quite different then. Where we are today, we had navigation aids that had been piled up, navigation aids that had been ripped from their mooring or their tether point along the river. In fact, one of the large navigation aids from the Brisbane River ended up being salvaged from Fraser Island. The river was unsafe, effectively, except for large commercial vessels. It was certainly unsafe for recreational craft because there were dangers just under the waterline or deeper in the river. And over that period of time, Maritime Safety Queensland, commercial contractors, and also the Australian Defence Force have worked and toiled so hard to bring the river back to a place where it is now safe again for marine craft. And I do want to thank our friends from the Australian Defence Force, the Australian Army and the Royal Australian Navy in particular for the work they've done, working with our government, Maritime Safety Queensland, to make the river safe. During that period of time, 6,700 tonnes of debris was pulled from the river. 60 navigation aids, 60 vessels were salvaged, 40 pontoons were salvaged from the river, 60 navigational aids had to be repositioned in the river. It's been a mighty task, and I want to thank everyone who's been involved in that. So the clean-up means the river is now open to unrestricted marine traffic, both recreational and commercial. There's some important work to be done on the river in the future. The restoration of ferry terminals and also the restoration of city cats and other craft like that. That will take some time to restore the river, and of course the Old Drift restaurant, moving that out of harm's way is some important work, and Minister Bailey is leading that work, and that will be important work and that will be ongoing. This has also been an important thing for our economy. It's really important that our river and our port be reopened for our state's economy. It'll allow our exports from Queensland to move in an unrestricted way back out to the world. It'll allow craft to travel to commercial, recreational and holiday venues like Tangalooma. But very importantly, it'll help local boaties to get back out into the bay to wet a line on the weekend. And with beautiful weather that we have this weekend, hopefully, although some rain's forecast, but beautiful weather through the holidays and through Easter, I know a lot of boaties will be looking forward to doing that. So I might ask Minister Bailey to say a few words, also Joan Pease, the member for Lytton, and then we're happy to take questions after that.
Thanks very much, Cameron. It's a real pleasure to be here to join our Maritime Safety Queensland staff, members of the Navy and the Army, who all work together very closely because 6 weeks ago the river was like a bowling alley of debris coming down. Pontoons, boats, all sorts of things in channels, making it dangerous to be on the river, and all of that needed dealing with. And we saw a fantastic collaborative effort from Maritime Safety Queensland, other government agencies. I want to thank also those community groups out there who have been helping clean up things off beaches, off mangroves. It's been a magnificent community effort after the disaster that occurred. So we're down here to thank them and to, the commitment there was above and beyond the call of duty for all of our staff. They just did a magnificent job. The job isn't over. There's still things to do. There's still some areas to finalise and that sort of thing. But to recover this quickly is a great credit to everybody. I want, as the Minister for Transport and Main Roads, who has maritime as my responsibility, to thank all of our staff for all that they've done. It was a big effort, long shifts, people being called in at short notice. We had people dealing with huge tankers that had broken moorings, the tug operators. Incredible effort. So, our staff at its best.
Done.
Thanks very much, and I too would like to thank all of the great workers that have put in so much effort to make sure that Brisbane River can respond and go back to what we would like to consider be normal. I'd also particularly like to acknowledge the recreational users of the river who heeded the call and stayed clear of the river until such time as it's been right to open, because it's been really important to keep everyone safe and allow the clean-up work to go ahead unrestricted. I'd like to acknowledge the great work of the Navy and the Army and thank them and their members for putting themselves at risk. I know that it hasn't been an easy job many of the time, so I'd really like to thank you. I'd also like to acknowledge the great work of MSQ, and I work often with MSQ, and their officers are always responsive and do a great job, so thank you. And like Minister Bailey said, to thank our community groups that are working so hard, and particularly my good friends Ocean Crusaders, who I was out with Minister Scanlon during the week to look at some of the debris that continues to wash up along the banks of the river. So thank you to all involved, and I look forward to a quieter storm season. Thank you.
So we're happy to take questions on the river clean-up first before we go to anything else. Are there any questions on that?
How much did it cost the river clean-up? Do you have a figure on that?
No, we wouldn't have a figure yet calculated on that, but it would have been a very significant investment from multiple levels of government, no doubt millions of dollars in staff time, in vessel costs, but really you can't put a figure on how quickly this river has been restored, and it's all part of course, those natural disaster relief funding arrangements. That sort of investment will be tallied as part of that process. We know the cost of the natural disaster has been very significant for Queensland. Thankfully, the economic cost not as significant as other weather events, but the toll to individuals and families has been very high. The toll to private residences and also state and local government infrastructure has been high as well. But ultimately, we're just so pleased that this work has been able to be done in such a quick period of time by all sectors of the community and also government, and we're grateful for that.
So until today, was the port not operating at full capacity, or what was the situation? And now it's fully open?
Kel, would you like to respond to that?
Sure. So look, initially the port was closed entirely for 4 or 5 days. We worked very hard on a risk-based basis to get the shipping back to normal levels. It took a couple of weeks, to be quite honest. We're pretty much back close to 100% now, with some minor inconveniences here and there, and a bit of a backlog on the land side as well. It's clearing the backlog, but from a port's perspective, it's taken a couple of weeks, but we're back to full capacity pretty much by now.
How have you gone with people who were going to salvage some of the things that you
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, a lot of the equipment was damaged, pretty badly damaged. So it's limited our ability to return, the items that were still returnable in a condition that they're still usable. But we've established a pretty good system for that. We returned pretty much 3/4 of it now, and we're working through a process of returning the rest of it where we can. About 3/4 of what was salvageable and in a returnable state has been returned. A lot of it, of course, is heavily damaged.
The Drift restaurant, can we just get an update on when is the Drift moving, and just a recap of where it's going?
Yeah, look, it's a very dangerous and delicate operation there. It's going well. We've got the big cranes in place. They've put a lot of new pilings in place so that we can move the 200-tonne structure somewhere to stabilise it and get it off the bikeway. So that's the next stage. We're hoping over the next day or two we'll be able to achieve that and open up the bikeway. The bikeway will need repairing. So it got more damage there than we estimated about 2 weeks ago. So we'll be moving in as soon as we're able to rectify and repair the bikeway, and when it's safe to open it up to the public, when there's no risk to them, we will be doing that as soon as we can.
So next day or two, does that depend on conditions?
Yeah, look, it is. There's a little bit of there might be a little bit of rain. We'll have to see. Obviously, the safety of our workers is our first priority. It is a dangerous job, and it's a unique job. It's an engineering challenge from the ground up to deal with an unstable 200-tonne platform that's impaled, essentially was impaled on metal piling. So we're doing it as quickly as we can while maintaining the safety of all of our workers who, we want all of them to be safe throughout the job.
Yes, when removing the restaurant, are you going to have to close down more of Coronation Drive in addition to that bike track? And when can we expect Coronation Drive to be back to its original pre-flood operation?
Yeah, look, the Coronation Drive is a matter for the City Council. It's their road, but there is a temporary cycling diversion in there at the moment that's working okay. I've actually ridden it, it's fine. It gives cycling community a way past the impasse there at the Drift Restaurant. I understand that will remain in place until the bikeway's open. So, matter for the council. We've had to extend the exclusion zone on the river because we were getting quite a few people trying to get a good look at the operation, which we don't really want to happen with big cranes and big gear. We need safety for all of our workers there, but so people will see a larger exclusion zone there on the Brisbane River.
Just to clarify, so that salvage operation will take place from the river and not from Coronation Drive, so there won't be cranes on Coronation Drive?
No, I don't think it's planned to be. That's part of the plan. You can see that the cranes are actually water-based, so they're operating from there.
Can you give us an update on the ferries and the city cats as well?
Look, I don't have an update on the City Cats. That's a matter for the council. I understand they've got a staggered return of services from the City Cats as they rectify the ferry terminals. I understand there was quite a bit of damage to a number of the City Cats themselves that were left in the firing line there. But I'm sure the council will be able to update you specifically on whether there's an update on their timelines.
Flood funding?
Sure. You're not required for these restaurants? That's fine. Thanks very much. Sure.
Yesterday, the Prime Minister announced flood funding. Do you know when that'll trickle through and will be in people's pockets?
Well, as we said yesterday, we indicated yesterday, now that the funding's been secured from the federal government, we now settle the guidelines around this project. It is the biggest proposal of its kind and the biggest project of its kind ever delivered in Australia, the most significant resilience recovery program of its kind. So it's going to take some time to finalise those, but we do have a lot of experience in Queensland. We've got the Queensland Reconstruction Authority, which is the best of its kind in the world. So they will now work with the Commonwealth Government. We have a lot of experience in this space to settle those guidelines, to get the money out as quickly as we can. But as the CEO of the Queensland Reconstruction Authority said yesterday, this will take time. It is a massive project. There are a lot of communities to talk to and engage with, and we want to do this in a respectful manner with those communities and individuals who've been impacted. So we'll take some time to get that right, but of course we want to help them as quickly as possible. In the meantime, there is a safety support net for supporting safety net for people, and so they are helped if they need accommodation, if they need financial support. Those sorts of things will be rolled out to continue to support individuals before we can get into the infrastructure rebuild.
If I'm a one-income family and I earn $55,000 to $57,000, I'm not eligible for a lot of those funds under the means testing. Is that appropriate? I mean, who earns that amount of money would be eligible even for a mortgage? Doesn't that exclude a lot of people from?
Well, the Prime Minister asked for a means test to be applied. We've agreed with that. And that's part of the guidelines that we will be developing, and that's just the reality. These are very significant events, and it's not possible to compensate everyone for every loss that they have sustained. But we've put together the biggest package of its kind ever in Australian history, and so that is a very significant step forward when it comes to rebuilding communities, and we're pleased to have done that, and pleased now to have the federal government contribute. Otherwise we would not have been able to do anywhere near as much as we can now deliver.
Just to clarify, that means testing, that's on that original package that was announced a few weeks ago. So that's a joint state and federal funding package?
That's right.
Are you saying that stipulation for means testing did come from the federal government?
Yes, I understand that was part of the negotiations around that, but look, I'm happy to get the information to you and provide that to you. I don't have the details with me here today.
And just finally, one other question. We've spoken to many people who have been pretty hard up against it in the last few weeks, still waiting for some of that money. When will that trickle through? And do you think that sort of waits appropriate? I know there is a safety net, but we're getting on, is it 3 weeks or a month now?
Well, I'm happy to get the details for you and come back to you. All right. Anything else today?
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks very much for your time.